So I'm going to show the code for a previous demo where I have communication between HTML, JavaScript, and a Flutter application running in a web browser. And real quick, so just so you can see it, whenever we increment this particular Flutter app, is currently on 4, because you can know how many takes I've done. It actually increments to 5, posts a message that says incremented to 5. Post that because of the way it was a demo and you wouldn't do this, it actually posted to the window and the parent, and then actually the JavaScript window listener picks this up. And that's because it's running in an iframe and I was playing around trying to get how it worked, right? So those are the messages. Flutter fired 2 messages and the JavaScript actually received 1 of those. And that's because the iframe itself doesn't have a listener in it, only the parent window does. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, or it's the reverse. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So that's how that works. We also have the reverse, which is I can actually increment down in the frame itself. I'm sorry, in the HTML itself, and it will cause this to increment. And how does that happen? It turns out Flutter receives an increment message with no count because it's just sending an increment. It does an increment, and then it posts back the incremented messages I showed before, and JavaScript receives back the incremented. So it's not the fact that there was an acknowledgement here, it's the fact that we actually get a message whenever the counter incremented. So that's that, right? And that's this repo here. And now I'm going to show you the code because that's really what this one's about. So if we look at it in the index.html, there's 2 parts, right? There's got to be a listener and there's got to be something to send a message. And so these are the button pieces right here, right? We've got this very simple iframe, and we've also got an element that we're going to replace with Flutter, and that's why we get 2 applications. And we've got 2 buttons, wildly named button 1 and button 2, and they call the 2 message senders. And basically, we're going to send a message to the window, or we're going to send a message to the iframe here, and that's because we're going to get these by element. And so we're going to send the increment message, and then we do window.postMessage or iframe content window.postMessage. So this actually is why we have 2 different buttons, one for the iframe increment and one for where the same application is in there as an HTML replace. And that's that, right? So that is, no, wait, there should be one more piece in here. Yeah. So this is how we send a message whenever we press the button inside the HTML. And then this is how we get the message whenever the Flutter app sends a message. We add a window event listener, and that handled everything I do is JSON. So we do a JSON parse, we convert it to data, and we check to see if it's an incremented. And that's actually because this listener will pick up the increment message too. It picks up all the messages on that listener. The only one we're interested here is the incremented in the web, right? Because we log whenever the counters are incremented. And so this is the window listener. So we have a window listener for messages from Flutter, and we have message senders for the 2 different targets in there. Okay, so that's the HTML part of this. On the other side, in Flutter, we end up having to have the same thing, right? Because whenever we increment, we got to post a message, and we also need to listen for messages from the HTML telling us to do an increment. So if you look down in here in the code, oh yeah, we're going to make everybody dizzy. So here, basically what we do is we set up a message channel, and that message channel can be listened to or it can be something else. We're going to use the JSON message codec because I'm super lazy. And if I just send it a map, it'll do the right thing. And then we also send up a message listener. We're going to listen for native messages. And what I really mean, no, actually that's for something else. Okay, so and then in here, when we do an increment counter, we're going to post an action. We're going to post the incremented. So whenever the function increment counter is called, so whenever the Flutter app increment button or the increment button in the HTML page is pressed, and we do an increment, we will actually post a message of some type. And then, is that all I had? Yep. Oh, yeah. So that tells us that's what happens whenever we did increment. And then somewhere down in here, we have, we have listen and listen native. Listen native is actually for the Android app, but I'm just going to show you. So we can listen here. We listen for an HTML event message. And if that message is the increment, so we ignore all other messages. They could be status. They could be the incremented message, right? Because we're listening on the same window listener. Whenever we get an increment, we just call increment counter. And whenever we do an increment, we post a message for incremented. That's it. So we have a send and a listen in each app. Send and a listen in the web app, and a send and a listen in the Flutter app. And so, like I said, that's this repo. And I hope that was enough. I'm trying to make this short. Have a great day.